I used to think love was the goal, the end game, the one thing that would finally make everything feel a whole. I chased it, worked for it, bent over backwards to keep it. But after a failed marriage, a few hollow relationships, and too many nights spent second-guessing myself, I realized something I wish I had known years earlier. Love isn't always what saves a man. Sometimes, it's what nearly breaks him. And that's when things shifted. Not out of bitterness, but out of clarity, because with time, I started seeing value in things no one ever taught me to chase. Peace, stability, purpose, freedom. Things that didn't make my heart race, but made my soul rest. This isn't about giving up on love. It's about knowing what must come before it, or else love becomes another burden. So here it is, not a list of complaints, not a rejection of romance, just 15 things I've learned to value more than love. If you've ever had to rebuild yourself after giving too much, you might find yourself here too. He values peace over passion. There was a time when I mistook intensity for connection, the late-night arguments that felt like fire, the constant need to fix things, prove something, or chase something unstable. I thought that was love, but it wasn't. It was emotional chaos, disguised as romance. Now, I don't crave fireworks. I crave calm. I want to come home and not brace for the mood. I want to speak and not feel like every word might start a debate. I want silence, not because I have nothing to say, but because peace doesn't need to raise its voice. Some people say that makes me boring, but I've lived through enough noise to know that peace isn't passive. It's earned. It's chosen. I've loved women who made my heart race, but I stayed with the one who made my nervous system exhale. Because at this stage of life, passion that comes with panic isn't exciting, it's exhausting. And I'm done mistaking chaos for chemistry. He values his routine. There's something sacred about predictability when you've lived through too many years of emotional storms. Every morning, I wake up at the same time. Same cup of black coffee, same playlist, same quiet walk around the block. It's not about being rigid. It's about creating a rhythm that protects my peace. I used to be spontaneous for the sake of looking interesting, but now I realize discipline isn't dull. It's freedom. I don't need someone to shake up my world. I've already lived through enough earthquakes. What I need is someone who respects that my routine isn't a limitation. It's a structure I built to keep myself whole. You want to understand a man like me? Don't mock the small rituals. They're the anchors I built after the storms passed. Because when life gets hard, and it always does, routine is what keeps a man from unraveling. He values sleep. I used to trade sleep for attention. Late-night texts, midnight calls, lying awake wondering what she meant by that last message. And in the morning, I paid for it not just in yawns, but in decision fatigue, brain fog, and a short temper I couldn't explain. Now, I protect my sleep like it's sacred, because it is. At this age, I've learned that energy isn't just physical, it's emotional, and sleep is where I recharge both. I go to bed early, not because I'm old, but because I respect my body now more than I ever did in my 20s. I wake up clear, calm. I don't need an alarm. My body knows the rhythm and it thanks me for it. No more staying up to prove I'm fun. No more sacrificing rest just to be someone else's emotional outlet at 2 a.m. If she thinks that makes me boring, she's not the one. Because a man who sleeps well, thinks clearer, leads better, and loves from a rested place. And at this stage, that's non-negotiable. He values time with himself. Solitude used to feel like punishment. In my younger years, if I was alone too long, I'd assume something was wrong with me, with life, with the world. Now, I crave it. Time with myself isn't something I tolerate. It's something I protect. Because in those quiet moments, mornings with no plans, afternoons without conversation, evenings spent reading or just thinking, I reconnect with the man I've become. I don't need noise to feel alive. I don't need validation to feel whole. Solitude is where I process, where I hear my own voice again after a week of everyone else's. Some people ask, don't you get bored? I don't. I get clear. A man who values time with himself doesn't do it because he's antisocial. He does it because he understands this. If you can't sit with your own soul, you'll never know what it's truly asking for. And I've spent too many years drowning that voice. Not anymore. He values emotional safety. There's a kind of damage that doesn't leave bruises. The kind that comes from being criticized when you open up, from having your vulnerabilities thrown back at you in the middle of an argument, from trying to express yourself only to be mocked, misread, or dismissed. That's the kind of pain most men don't talk about. But we carry it. So now, when I meet someone new, I don't listen to how kind she sounds when she's happy. I watch how she speaks when she's disappointed. Does she stay calm when there's tension? Or does she weaponize her words? Because emotional safety isn't just about support. It's about restraint. It's about knowing the other person won't use your heart as leverage. I've walked away from women who were beautiful, smart, passionate, but who couldn't hold space for disagreement without turning it into a battlefield. Because now, I value something far more than physical closeness, the ability to be fully seen and still feel safe. If I can't be honest without fearing consequences, then I'm not in love. I'm in survival mode, and I won't live there anymore. He values his energy. I no longer argue just to be right. I don't chase people who walk away, and I don't explain myself to anyone who's already made up their mind. Because my energy isn't unlimited, and I finally know how much it costs to pour it into the wrong people. I used to think patience meant enduring everything, but now I know sometimes walking away is the most patient thing you can do. When someone drains me emotionally, mentally, spiritually, I notice it. I feel the heaviness after the conversation, the agitation in my chest, the way my thoughts keep circling back to something I wish I hadn't said, or wish I had. And that's my signal. I don't fight anymore. Not because I'm weak, but because I've learned that some battles cost too much peace. Energy, for a man like me, is more than fuel. It's clarity. It's leadership. It's life. So I give it wisely now. And when something or someone starts pulling me too far from myself, I don't protest. I just pull away. That's not distance. That's self-preservation. He values truth over comfort. There was a time I avoided the truth, said what I thought she wanted to hear, held back opinions to keep the peace, swallowed things that should have been said until they became resentment. But that kind of comfort is a lie, and it always comes back to bite you. These days I speak clearly, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it risks the connection, because I've learned if I can't tell the truth in a relationship, then I'm not really in one. I'm in a performance. I once told a woman she reminded me of someone who'd hurt me, not because I blamed her, but because something about her tone, her way of pulling away when things got real, it triggered a wound I hadn't fully dealt with. She didn't like it, said I was projecting. Maybe I was, but I was also being honest with her and with myself. At this stage in life, I don't sugarcoat, not to be harsh, but because truth, even when it stings, is a gift. And if someone can't sit with honesty, they'll never be able to sit with the real me. Love without truth isn't love. It's denial with a pretty face. He values freedom. I used to think being needed was love. When she said, "I don't know what I'd do without you," it made me feel important. But over time, I realized that wasn't connection. That was pressure. There's a difference between being needed and being chosen. Being needed feels like obligation, like someone's survival is in your hands. You can't rest, can't fall, can't change without disrupting their entire world. Being chosen? That's different. That's voluntary. That's freedom, meeting freedom. Now, I don't look for someone who leans on me constantly. I look for someone who walks beside me steady, grounded, whole on her own. Because I've worked too hard rebuilding my life to feel caged by someone else's dependency. I need to know that if I step away for a day, a week, an hour, I won't return to guilt or panic. I'll return to a partner who respects my space the same way I respect hers. Freedom, to a man who's felt emotionally trapped before, isn't selfish. It's sacred. And love that doesn't allow for breathing room isn't love worth keeping. It values financial clarity. Money used to be a battlefield in my relationships. Not because I didn't have it, but because no one ever taught us how to talk about it with honesty. There were assumptions, unspoken expectations, guilt around spending. Power plays over who earned more. And somehow, love always got tangled in the math. Now, I keep it simple. Every dollar has a place. Every expense has a reason. I don't flash what I have, but I also don't let anyone make me feel guilty for protecting it. Because financial clarity isn't about control, it's about stability. And I've learned that no matter how good the romance is, if your financial values don't align, you'll bleed peace out of your life in little, painful drops. I don't want to argue about credit cards, or feel like I'm being tested when I say no to something unnecessary. I want transparency. I want someone who understands that I built this life not just for comfort, but for freedom. And if love threatens that freedom with chaos, I'll choose calm accounting over emotional overdraft. Every time. He values his health. There was a time I treated my body like it was indestructible. Skipped sleep, ate whatever was quick, pushed through exhaustion because rest was for later. But later came, and it nearly broke me. Now, I pay attention. I track my sleep. I stretch every morning. I care about what goes on my plate, not because I'm chasing youth, but because I respect the machine that carries me through this life. I don't need to look like a bodybuilder, but I want to be strong enough to carry groceries without pain, to hike without running out of breath, to get up off the floor without a groan. I used to think health was just about muscles or abs. Now I know it's about self-respect. Because a man who doesn't honor his own body won't honor much else for long. And if a relationship threatens that rhythm, late nights, fast food, emotional stress that wrecks my immune system, then it's not love. It's sabotage with a smile. I've got too much to protect now. My peace, my energy, my future. And if that means skipping the party, taking the walk alone, or saying no to someone who drains me, so be it. Health isn't optional anymore. It's the foundation of everything I want to build from here. He values slowness. In my 20s, I rushed everything, fell fast, committed quickly, moved in, merged finances, made promises I hadn't sat with long enough to understand, and then wondered why everything collapsed. Now, I move slow, deliberately. I don't jump into conversations that don't matter. I don't answer texts out of obligation, and I definitely don't fall in love just because the spark feels good. I watch, I listen, I observe the spaces between words, because I've learned who someone is when they're patient, is who they really are. Slowness isn't fear, it's wisdom. When I take time, I notice red flags I used to miss. I hear my own instincts more clearly, and I stop trying to make someone the one just because I'm tired of being alone. Slowness has saved me more times than speed ever did. So if she thinks I'm taking too long, that's fine. I'd rather be misunderstood for being intentional than praised for being reckless. Because love built fast often breaks faster. He values privacy. There's a difference between secrecy and sacredness. I don't post everything. I don't explain myself to strangers. And I don't feel the need to make my relationship public property. That used to be a problem for some women. Why don't you post me? Why don't you tell your friends every detail? Because I'm not here to perform intimacy. I'm here to live it quietly, privately, intentionally. Some things are just mine. My morning rituals, the playlist I play when I drive alone at night, the way I speak to God when I'm unsure. I don't hide them. I just don't offer them to people who won't honor them. I used to overshare. Thought vulnerability meant constant openness. But I learned true intimacy happens in safe spaces, not spotlights. So if I don't rush to post, or explain, or perform, it's not because I'm hiding something. It's because I finally know what's worth protecting. Privacy isn't distance. It's dignity. And at this point in life, that matters more than attention ever will. He values loyalty over excitement. She wasn't the most exciting woman I ever knew. She didn't surprise me with grand gestures. She didn't flirt with risk or chase wild adventures. But she showed up every day, with kindness, with presence, with consistency. And that, I learned, is rare. Excitement fades, butterflies, but loyalty? That stays. She remembered my coffee order, checked in when I got quiet, never made me feel like I had to earn her attention back every time we disagreed. I've been with women who lit up every room, but I always felt like I had to compete with the spotlight. Now I value the ones who stay after the applause ends. Loyalty doesn't mean perfection. It means effort when it's inconvenient, softness when it's deserved, and presence when it matters most. At this age, I don't need thrill. I need trust, because I've had enough of people who love loudly and leave quietly. Now I choose the ones who stay steady, even when no one's watching, even when it's hard, even when love isn't fun, but it's real. Give me boring, if it's loyal. I'll take that over fireworks that burn out by morning. I value simplicity. There was a time I thought love had to be complicated, that if we weren't fighting, we weren't passionate, that if there weren't highs and lows, we weren't deep enough. But life has humbled me. Now, I find joy in the simplest things: toast with butter, jazz on vinyl, 2 mugs of coffee, 1 black, 1 with cream, no arguing about which one is better, a long walk at dusk, a shared glance across the room, the comfort of silence that doesn't need to be filled. I used to be addicted to intensity, to drama, to proving something. Now, I'm addicted to ease, to lightness, to the absence of tension. Give me a woman who's honest, gentle, and kind, who doesn't test me, who doesn't play roles, who says what she means and means what she says. Because the older I get, the more I realize, simple isn't boring. It's safe, it's sustainable, it's beautiful. And if someone can sit beside me on a quiet afternoon, without needing to impress, to argue, to stir anything up, then she understands something most don't. That love isn't in the performance, it's in the peace. He values respect more than romance. I don't need compliments. I don't need to be admired. I need to be respected. Respected when I'm quiet, when I say no, when I hold a boundary without apology. Romance is easy. Anyone can light candles, plan a weekend trip, say the right words in a text. But respect, that takes character. It shows up when I ask for space, and she gives it without guilt. When I speak a truth she doesn't like, and she listens without punishing me. When I lead with clarity, and she doesn't confuse that with control. At this point in my life, I don't care how romantic a woman is if she doesn't see me fully. Not just as a partner, but as a man with principles, with limits, with a past. I've been in relationships where I felt adored but not understood, and that's lonelier than being alone. Now I crave connection built on mutual respect, where I don't have to shrink to be loved, where I don't have to explain my every move just to keep the peace. Because when respect is present, love doesn't feel like effort, it feels like alignment. And that, I'll choose every time. I've loved deeply, I've lost more than I ever expected, and I've spent years trying to figure out what went wrong, when I gave everything I had. But I see it now. It wasn't that love failed me, it's that I didn't yet know what truly mattered more than love. Peace, clarity, safety, freedom, rhythm, stability. These aren't things love should replace, they're things love should protect. So if you're a man in your 50s or 60s, wondering why love feels heavier now, why it doesn't hit the same, why you don't chase like you used to, maybe it's not that you've grown cold, maybe it's that you've grown clear, and maybe, just maybe, it's okay to say, I value my peace more than her passion. I value being respected more than being adored. I value who I've become, more than who someone wants me to be. Because love, without those things, is just noise. But when you build a life where those things come first, the right kind of love will find you. And when it does, you'll be ready not to lose yourself in it, but to share yourself without fear. If that sounds like your journey, drop a quiet comment below. This is what I've come to value too. You're not alone. Not anymore.